Well, hi.
Sweet intro, you guys.
Thank you.
Hi,
The
y'all.
music sets the mood. Hello, ExCultBaby. I explained earlier that me and Casey would be referring to her as X because of, like everybody knows, my inability to grasp just basic words. And we decided that X is the way to go because cult wouldn't be too friendly,
nice.
and baby would just sound weird coming from me. So
yeah, that's too friendly.
Yeah, we went with X.
It's too friendly. Yeah.
How are you doing? It's good to see you.
Doing pretty good. You guys doing okay?
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
It's been an interesting day.
It has been an interesting day, and we're going to take probably 2 or 3 minutes to go over that because I know people in the chat are going to be probably wanting to know if you saw what transpired today. Casey, I'll let you sort of wrap it up because if I do, I'm just going to get wound up and angry again, and I need to relax. So.
Comment of the day has already rolled in. Vandy
what was that?
004 says X has X for best hair.
I agree. It looks great.
Accurate. Yeah.
Rocket.
Hey, not a lot of people can pull that off. I'm just saying.
You know what's funny? Ever since I shaved my head, that's literally that everybody has said to me. It's like, not everybody can pull that off. And I'm like, but have you tried? Have you shaved your head? You don't know that everybody can't pull it off until you do it.
I tried it one time, and I wound up that I realized that there's a big lump on this side of my head, and yeah, it was like I literally every time I walked past the mirror, I had to hold my breath. I was like, mirror time again. Don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look.
See, Kyle just needs the poof. You know, Kyle needs the poof.
Yeah,
to pull it off.
It's iconic.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like you already. We're going to get along just great. Dave, will you put that list up real quick? Just sort of catty-cornered up there where our pictures are.
Oh, the list.
Yeah,
we're going to address it real quick, and then we're going to move on because it's not about that. The list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Casey, what is this list we have here?
So this is a list that was created in a progressive atheist group on, closed group on Facebook and shared with some people. That is apparently the list was not originally intended to do this, but this is what ended up happening. Became a list of people that they decided were transphobes, people who have supported rationality rules, and that basically needed to be available for people in the trans community so that they could reference it and know who to stay away from because they were basically at higher risk of being around these particular creators and their content.
Right. So we've got Telltale, Vice Rhino, Godless Engineer, KC, Shannon Q, Mr. Atheist, Cosmic Skeptic, Rachel Oates, Noel Plum, Surus, myself, and our various collaborators. So I guess that would include you, X, since you are collaborating with us.
You're on the list.
I'm just.
It includes me, Boolinator. They can't even type my name out. Boolinator.
Dillahunty, Seth Andrews, and GM Skeptic. Let me just not say anything else about it, and we're going to move on. That list kicks ass, and I am proud to be on that list with every single one of the people on that list. There is not one on that list, not one, that is in any way, shape, or form transphobic. Each and every one of those people have stood up for LGBTQ plus rights. Myself being a member of that community can say also with confidence, each one of those people, right? All three of us can, and I think you would agree. We all can say that every person on that list has stood up for those rights. They're all allies, and because there's a situation going on where you may disagree with maybe some people's lack of getting involved in the drama because they're giving somebody who came out and openly admitted that they had made mistakes the chance to right those mistakes, doesn't give you the right to throw labels out to people, make pathetic lists, and judge them. Every one of those people on that list has done amazing things for so many different communities. Mr. Atheist is on that list, and
I know that's insane to me. He makes more
content.
He makes more transpositive content than anyone on the internet.
It's bizarre.
I've learned more from him about the trans community, about non-binary, about terms, about everything. I have learned more from Mr. Atheist than I have from anyone else combined.
It's bizarre. And let me tell you this. There may be some people that are expecting everyone to sort of join in with them to crucify rationality rules because he made a video where he openly said that he made some mistakes, but that's not the way that I can't speak for everyone, but that's not the way that I'm going to do it. I'm going to give him the chance to right the mistakes that he made and not cast every single good thing that he's done out because of a video where he made a mistake, which he openly admitted making a mistake. Well, things like this, hold on 1 second, Dave. Things like this do nothing but degrade the word transphobe. It makes it to where when you actually have somebody that is transphobic, it loses its punch. If you are going to call someone like Mr. Atheist, myself, anybody on that list a transphobe, you have lost all sense of the word transphobe. And what you're doing is harming the community that you're trying or you're claiming to want to protect more than anything. So I think you need to take a step back and think about what you're doing, because this list, I am 100% proud to be a member of. 100% proud.
All right, Dave. I was going to add that I watched Surus's video about this particular issue this morning. Mm-hmm. And Surus brought up a really valid point. Everybody's not really listening to what Rationality Rules has said about it. He said he's going to put out a video to correct it. And some people are saying, well, he's not doing it fast enough. He made a mistake. He admitted he made a mistake. He wants to correct it. Shouldn't we allow him the time to correct it correctly?
Yes. And we are. I can't speak for everybody else, but we are. So
absolutely. Yes. I take all the time you need. Take all the time you need.
Yeah.
Rationality Rules.
Now, should we go into happy things now, Casey, or did you want to tag something?
When that list hit social media, a lot of people came out in support of the people on the list. And I just want you all to know that from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate that, because we work really hard at what we do and we care about you guys. We care about the LGBTQ community, and all of us have spoken in support of it. And our actions and our words are out there for you to see. And so many people came back and said, this is crazy. A lot of trans people, non-binary people, intersex people. I can't tell you how many people today have come out and said, this is ridiculous. So thank you all for that so very much.
Yeah. Disagreements do not mean division. Remember that. Disagreements do not mean division. Okay. Now we're gonna set that aside. That's gonna be it for that. We are now going to
wait. Let me throw my hat in the ring on that.
Oh
yeah.
Just real quick. I have one thing to say.
That was so rude of me.
Yeah. No, you're fine. It was something that I said to my fiance earlier when we were talking about this issue, because we've been talking about it a lot. Basically, I was watching a video the other day, something completely unrelated to this, but it was this girl and she said something like, hey, if you're gay or bi or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's your decision. That's your life. And you can live however you want. Nobody should be able to judge you. Well, of course, I'm thinking, well, she's wrong about it being a decision. But the person is still clearly an ally, even if they got some things wrong. And that's how I view this whole situation, is like, he got some things wrong. He made some mistakes. He said some things that hurt people. And that is totally understandable to be hurt by it. But this is clearly not a person who is malicious or has any malicious intent. He said he's sorry and he's going to try to fix it. What the hell else can you ask for besides, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to fix it? What is the point of just, completely blacklisting this person? What is the point?
Outrage.
I think that's a good point.
The need to vilify someone.
But I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, very good point. And you're right. I'm so my mind is just it's been going since 6:30 this morning. I should have absolutely let you put your business in there. Excuse me for not.
Don't worry about it. Don't
asking.
worry about it.
I'm usually more respectful than that.
So
okay,
this is a topic that's got people pretty heated. So if you lost your manners for a second or whatever, I'm not mad about it.
Usually, I'm the epitome of a Southern gentleman, but not today.
Oh, yes,
I'm a
very
bitch
polite.
today. I see Shannon. Yeah,
yes.
I see her in the chat. She is still in the lead in her MS fundraising, and I think Shannon, if you'll put the link in the live chat. But people are getting close, and they're getting too close. We let them catch up because we want, obviously, our beloved Shannon Q to take that first place. So I think she'll be putting the link in the chat here in just a second. If you can, go and support her. It's a good cause for an even better person. And I don't say that often. She actually forced me to say that. That was not of my own free will.
Of course.
So, and then join us immediately after this. Aaron Ra will be coming on, and Aaron and I will be taking your calls and talking about the bird that came back after 136,000 years, thought to be extinct.
Oh, I'm excited.
It came back.
That'll be cool.
So now the focus is on you. The spotlight is on you, and you seem like you are used to that. You have I think you have a great sort of presence, and it's going to be fun getting to know you. So why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to everyone?
Okay. Hi, I'm ExCultBaby. I am an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was born and raised in the religion. I was disfellowshipped, in other words, excommunicated when I was 18, and I deconverted completely the following year. I still was a believer after I was kicked out of the church. Sometime after I deconverted, I was just looking at everything that I believed, looking at the Bible stories that I grew up with, among other things. And I kind of, even when I was a religious person, I loved telling stories in a kind of humorous way because I knew them backward and forward. So I decided what I wanted to do is I want to start a YouTube channel where I basically tell Bible stories in my own words, but, in a way that's humorous, at least I think they're but also in a way that kind of deconstructs what's wrong with these stories as far as, what logically makes sense, what historically happened, what is scientifically possible, and what is morally right. So I kind of just rip into Bible stories. I do other things on my channel, other skepticism, atheism stuff, but mainly that is the content that you will find on my channel if you happen to go look at it.
And you should. Everyone. And let me just so that everybody's on the sort of the same page. What makes the Jehovah's Witness version of religion different from the others? Like what things stand out and are practiced sort of differently, so that everybody kind of gets a general picture?
Knowing that Lloyd Evans and Owen are going to see this video makes me really like, oh God, am I going to cover all of the important stuff they're going to see and they're going to know? But
they're going to love you.
Jehovah's Witnesses, we'll see. But Jehovah's Witnesses believe that God's name is Jehovah, which is, obviously kind of a big thing. That's very important to them. Using what they believe God's name is very central to their religion. As Telltale will obviously explain to you, it's definitely a cult. It's a very large cult. It's the kind of thing where they control everything that the members do, down to what kind of sex they're allowed to have with their marriage mates. It's ridiculously controlling. They have something to say on every aspect of life, basically. And if you break one of the big rules, or if you start to deconvert, or you ask too many questions, you get removed from the congregation. And anyone who is a baptized Jehovah's Witness cannot talk to you. not allowed. So that's kind of a big thing with the way that Jehovah's Witnesses are different from other religions is, this very strict form of excommunication. Like, it's not just you're no longer a member of this church. It's like, we're going to treat you like you don't exist at all now. It's very strict.
So when you were excommunicated, my turn.
Wow.
So when you were excommunicated, did you lose a lot of family and friends? Did that happen to you?
Yes. My parents, my aunts and uncles, and my grandparents on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's side, are all Jehovah's Witnesses. I only have one aunt on my mom's side who is also disfellowshipped, and she has been for a few years. But I don't think that she is actually deconverted. I think that she still believes, but she just can't live the Jehovah's Witness lifestyle. And she's happy in her life where she is without being a Jehovah's Witness. So she hasn't gone back. But yeah, everybody else in my family is a Jehovah's Witness. And I have spoken to very few of them at all since I was disfellowshipped.
I hate that for you. So sorry. I hate these stories. They're so terrible.
Yeah, that's why they need to be told.
You know how in school you would do like fire drills in elementary school? You get up underneath your desk and cover your head, tornado drills, all that. My mom sort of had a similar thing.
Actually, I don't because I was homeschooled.
Oh, well.
Oh, boy.
What would happen was, like, for a tornado drill, they would take everybody in the hallway, and you would have to, like, squat down and put your hands over your head and kind of tuck your head in because for whatever reason, that's going to stop a tornado from carrying you off. You know what I mean? Like, that position is going to totally go. But my mom would do a similar thing on Saturdays because that would be the day that we would get a visit from Jehovah's Witnesses. And our drills would be diving behind furniture and whatever so that we can see us. Did you have to do a lot of that? And I'm genuinely asking for a reason though, because I've always wondered how that is sort of like kept up with, and if you have like a minimum or a quota that you have to, sort of get.
Yeah. So all Jehovah's Witnesses are required to go in the ministry. They don't necessarily say that it is a requirement, but it is also heavily implied, if not explicitly stated, that your personal salvation depends on you going out and preaching to other people to make sure that they can also have salvation. Because if you're not doing that, then you are blood guilty and God will kill you in Armageddon because you're just as bad, basically. There's no exact quota that needs to be met, but for the most part, you're kind of expected to get a minimum of 10 hours in the ministry every month because they keep track of that. They ask you at the end of the month to put in your time, how much time that you spent in the ministry. For the last few years that I was Jehovah's Witness, I was in an American Sign Language congregation because, deaf people are very easy to prey on when they're already outcasts of society. So, they're looking for community, and a cult is a great place to find community. So, I was in that for like 5 or 6 years, and the preaching in that was very different than the traditional Jehovah's Witness preaching that you're used to. Like, we would go to the door, and people would answer the door, and they'd be like, yes. And they'd be like, do you know anyone who's deaf or hard of hearing that uses American Sign Language? And they'd be so relieved that you weren't going to preach to them that they would actually give away information about their deaf family and neighbors and friends to complete strangers.
Wow.
So that was just as bad as far as the preaching stuff goes. Yeah, looking back, that was pretty like gross and horrible that we did that. That I did that personally. But yeah, they don't have a specific quota, but it's kind of expected that you usually get about 10 hours. Like you have to go out like for a couple of hours once a weekend to get about 10 hours. But anything less than that, then you must be suffering spiritually or something like that is the assumption.
Oh, Casey, would be an epic showdown would be a Jehovah's Witness showing up at a flat earther's house.
Oh my Lord.
Can you imagine?
We should figure out how to set that shit.
So, what was it? Let's sort of go through. I assume that you were pretty, pretty faithful up until a certain point. And what was the tipping point, or what sort of things brought that doubt into your life? Was it one thing, a couple things? Walk us through that.
Well, like I said before, I was homeschooled until junior year of high school, and then I went to public school. And that was where let me actually go back a little bit before that. I was a volunteer at my local zoo, and I did that since I was like 13 years old. And I really loved that job, but the funny thing was almost all of the volunteers were members of the LGBT community. Not almost all, but a large percentage compared to like the population at large. Apparently gays love animals. I don't know. But it was my first real exposure to to my LGBT peers. And I got used to being around people that were gay, people that were bi. I met trans people. I wasn't really used to it at the time, but it was like I was working with one of them, and one of them was like, "Okay, hey, I know that my name tag says Miranda, but could you call me Mitchell?" And I was like, "Okay." This was really the first trans person that I'd ever had like any kind of conversation with, and he just said, "Hey, this is my name. Can you use it?" And I was like, "Sure." Like I didn't see any problem with it in my head. But I got very used to being around the LGBT community in that circle. So then when I went into high school, and I seemed to, the kids that I tended to fit in with, even though they were very few and far between, the kids that I tended to fit in with were also LGBT. And I slowly came to realize maybe I'm also part of this community, and that's why I relate to them so much. At the time, I identified as bisexual. I identify now as pansexual, but there's very little distinction. But that kind of just realizing that I'm a member of that community was a starting point for me, because it was like, I don't know, I don't feel bad. I feel like the people that I know and I'm friends with aren't bad. I know it's supposed to be, but it was a very strong case of cognitive dissonance, where it was like, I know that I can't think of anything that is actually literally wrong with it, but it is. It just is, and I know it. And it was a very strong conflict. And to make a long story short, this ultimately ended with me leaving my family home when I was 18 for a few reasons, but I had become more and more like permissive towards the homos, basically, and just I basically just had the idea that I wanted to live my life with the people that I loved, and there was no way that I was going to be in a relationship with a trans guy and live at home with my parents. So it wasn't really about the religion as much, because I still thought I was going to die in Armageddon. I was 100% convinced that, like, I'm going to go and do my thing, but I will die for it. And that's that's the way it's going to be. I just resigned myself to the idea that I was going to be killed by God in Armageddon because I was going to date a trans person, and that I was happy with that. Actually, I was in a polyamorous relationship with a trans guy and a woman. So it was just as sinful as could be.
That's telling. But, how dare you love and be happy? That's the takeaway.
Yeah. The funny thing is,
I think it's interesting because for just wanting to be happy and not doing anything wrong, like you were sure that the God that you were worshiping was going to kill you, and it's such a weird headspace that I don't understand about religion. And I grew up Catholic, but I was never really like one of those people who really believed. Like I didn't really see myself as an atheist, but I didn't really have that connection. And so it's a thing that I just don't understand, because it's like, you're a horrible person. And the reason you're a horrible person is because this person who you have to worship and love says you are, but they love you.
Right.
I never understood
I never got a satisfying answer to why homosexuality was wrong. And that just made it even more difficult to resist it, I guess, because it's a sin. It's not an actual morally bad thing. It's something that's wrong because God says it's wrong and not for any other reason. So you can't justify it any other way than religion. It's totally unjustifiable otherwise. I knew about, I knew that there were examples of homosexuality in nature, and that confused me too, because it was like, well, the animals are doing it, and they didn't have like original sin or anything to make them all fucked up. So, what gives, God? Why are they allowed to do that? But
he's a dick.
Yeah, really, he just is. I say that all the time on my channel too. Like, God's just being a dick in this story, man.
He is. He's a big dick. And you know what? If anything deserves to go to heaven, it's dogs. And no one can answer the question, where do the animals go? I ask you, theists, where do the animals go? These innocent animals, because I would choose dogs over people any day. And if the dogs can just, die and not have to worry about either worshiping a dick for eternity or burning alive, it's a dog's life.
That was something I thought about too. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe that all and God destroys all the wicked, then the good people will have the earth forever. But they don't teach that the animals will live forever. Like, I'm going to be surrounded by the death of animals while I live eternally. What the hell would be the point of owning a pet? I mean, owning a pet already sucks because you watch them die, but imagine living forever and seeing like hundreds of thousands of pets die over your lifetime.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
No, and a weird statistic is that 99% of all of these that have ever existed are extinct now. Just think about that. 90, I think it's 99%. That is it's like Christopher Hitchens used to say. That means that God just stood with his arms folded while all of this sort of destruction and extinction just took place, and was just like, huh? What can you do?
Yeah.
People in the chat are making
God doesn't give a shit about animals.
And I think it's a good point to bring up that the psychological burden that religion sort of puts on people. I went through it sort of just like you did, because I was a young earth creationist until I was 25.
Ugh.
And yeah, no, we're sort of the
a former JW like cringed at you.
It's true, though.
Creationist. Come on, man.
It's true. It's true. And I was an independent Baptist, which is, if Southern Baptists aren't conservative enough for you, you go to independent Baptists, because they, you can't dance. You can't. I mean, it's ridiculous. Dancing.
It's like
down here.
It's like the people on Footloose, right?
No.
You live in a Footloose town.
You don't even get to Footloose.
No, that you've seen the movie though, Footloose with Kevin Bacon. Yeah,
I haven't.
Go watch it.
Not seen.
Come on, man.
Well, so down here they have I think they're called Bible Baptists, that they like try to live every single thing exactly like the Bible. They're very interesting. They're very, very extreme. And usually their churches are like not somebody's house, but like we don't have like normal zoning laws down here. So you can have like a house next to a house that's actually a business. And so most of them are like in homes that are made into businesses.
People do weird things for religion.
Godless Engineer just said that Steven Anderson is a Bible Baptist. You know who Steven Anderson is?
Yeah, he's part of the NIFB, the New Independent Fundamentalist Baptist, blah blah blah.
Yeah, he just got back from he's terrible. He just got back from Ireland. They banned him from Ireland, which normally I don't celebrate. Normally I don't celebrate like full out bans of people, but this guy, I feel like he does call for the genocide of homos, so He does.
Yeah,
he's pretty terrible.
I would in my country if I could make that call.
Yeah, I mean, he should be banned from breathing.
Yeah, when you advocate for violence and things like that, I'm sorry, I can't. I can't help you.
That goes from like you're a shitty person with shitty ideas that I can try to work against to being like, whoa, you're trying to get people to hurt other people.
Right.
Don't do that. Yeah. Just shut up. Just shut up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about him is his views on marital consent. He literally advocates on a Sunday basis. He says, and this is a direct quote from him, that you cannot rape your spouse, that when you say I do at the altar, that is consent from that point until one of you passes away. And now, finally, in the United States, it is illegal, or you can't actually rape your spouse. They passed those laws in every state. So what this man is doing every single Sunday is advocating for something that is not only illegal, it's rape, but this has to be like psychologically impactful on the women in that church. Can you imagine being a woman in that church and you're sitting there beside your husband while he hears the guy that he thinks is ordained by God telling him that, oh yeah, you can have her whenever you want her. I mean, that is just
there's nothing. Well, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like as the wife, as the subordinate, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit there and listen to it. You can't say anything against it or else you go to hell. You know what I mean? Like it's horrible how people are treated. But one thing I really...
Oh, God.
Go ahead.
Who's going first?
No, go ahead.
You're going next.
Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses are really also sexist and misogynistic as well. When I was still searching for answers, the only answer that I heard that kind of made sense at the time about why homosexuality was actually wrong was something that my dad told me. And he said basically something along the lines of like, well, in the biblical family arrangement, the man is the head of the household. If you have two women or two men, you're going to have discord because one of them can't be the one to put their foot down and say, no, this is the way we're doing things. Which at the time made sense because I bought into the biblical family arrangement. But now I'm like, that's a fucked up way of doing things. Because now I'm looking back and seeing how my parents were and how literally everybody in the house could be like, we want to do it this way. And my dad would be like, we're doing it this way. And we'd all just be like, well, I guess that he's the dad, so I guess we have to listen to him, even though he doesn't make any sense.
Imagine me and Casey being married. Who do you think would be putting the law down in that scenario? Me, of course.
Yeah.
Just putting it on. So
we both say me.
Which came first? Which came first for you? Did you come out first as? I assume, are you atheist? Would that be the appropriate title for you now?
Correct.
Did you come out as an atheist first, or did you come out into your sexuality first? Because I remember it was easier for my family to accept me being gay than it was for them to accept me being an atheist.
I actually did not deconvert until quite a while after I was excommunicated, so I still haven't come out to my family as an atheist. They might have figured it out from some of my some of my social media posts, if they even still look at my social media at all. I don't know if they do, because that's still kind of a no-no according to Watchtower, is even to be on social media with disfellowship people. I have no idea if they know or not, but I don't feel like I have to come out to them. Like, what the hell? Why do I have to tell them anything about me now? They don't want me to be in their life. But I did come out to my parents as bi when I was still in high school. It was a family worship night, which is when we all come together and we all study some propaganda together, and it's a whole load of fun. But at the beginning of our family worship, I kind of was like, okay, after family worship, I need to tell you guys all something. And they were like, well, what is it? Just tell us now. And I'm like, no, I don't want to ruin family worship. And they're like, just tell us, what is it? And my mom, or I don't know if it was my mom or my sister, one of them asked me if I was pregnant. And I was like, what? No, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And then I tell them that, and then they finally get me to say it. And I'm like, okay, I'm bi. Okay, I'm bi. Oh. And my mom was like, well, that's not a good thing. And I said, well, it's better than being pregnant. And they were all like, yeah.
Oh, my drop. That's good. I like that.
So because it was, I mean, it was good relative to being a pregnant teenager. So they were like, I guess that's true. That's true.
So can I go now, Kyle?
In a minute.
We'll pretend like you're in charge.
Go ahead.
So I want to talk to you real quick about the Jehovah's Witness videos. Now, I haven't seen tons of them, but I don't know how many people know this, but my very first video was on a Jehovah's Witness video about masturbation. And I totally was not expecting to do my first video. I was totally not expecting to do my first video on masturbation, but it happened. It happened that way. And that was, I covered the first, like the Jehovah's Witness video in the first half, and then the second half, because this was all prompted by some crazy ass tweet.
Was it Pillowgate?
I don't know. I saw a clip of it. It was a confluence of events. I happened to see an article with a clip of it in there, and it was an old guy with white hair, and it was for boys. And it was just about how you can't wear pants that are too tight because it'll rub you.
Yep, that's Pillowgate. That's Pillowgate.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that one, and then I saw this tweet, and it was someone who was like, I want to be married to Jesus, or like, I don't know, it was some crazy ass tweet. So then the second half of the video was having a Jesus toolbox for this lady on Twitter. And and I went and found Jesus sex toys on the
Oh my God.
So
that's great.
Oh man, it was funny.
I loved that video. We had baby
That was
Jesus
a fun one, right?
I have to go watch it now.
Yeah, we had the baby Jesus butt plug and the jackhammer Jesus. It was really entertaining. So, and we still talk about those things, but so the videos, I know at least for masturbation, there was one for boys and there was one for girls. How many videos like these do they have, and are they all as ridiculous as Pillowgate was?
So let me tell you a little bit about those videos in particular. They were made not for the general Jehovah's Witness public. The everyday average Jehovah's Witness has not seen those videos.
Oh, okay.
They're not for girls and boys. They're for adult men and women.
Oh.
They're for Bethelites, and Bethel is basically their cult compound where they have people come and work there for almost no money at all. Like they have a salary, and it's very little, but they live there, they eat together, they worship together, they study together, they work together. And the work is all Bethel related stuff. They help produce videos, they help make more magazines, they help just do whatever the hell Watchtower wants them to do, really. So that's who those videos were intended for, those two particular videos. Okay. But in the past few years, Watchtower has been producing so many videos. It is ridiculous. Not all of them are as ridiculous as that particular video, because that one was like an uproar in the extra Witness community because it was so absurd. It was so absurd.
It is.
But those had to get leaked. Like, they are not available to the general public. Yeah, they have some pretty garbage stuff out there, and just the sheer amount of propaganda that they are pumping out constantly is just ridiculous. They used to have, the Watchtower and the Awake and all these magazines and stuff that they were constantly coming out with, and they ramped that up a little bit, but they're trying, I get the sense that they're trying to go digital. They have a lot more videos now. They have apps, everything, all of their content is available there, all these videos, all of their literature is there digitally. They make a lot of videos, and I have been starting to think about doing response videos to some of those, but I feel like it's been done to death already. But at the same time, it's like, ugh, I gotta put my 2 cents in because this shit is ridiculous.
Now, there's a part of Jehovah's Witness that, to me, like you, I don't think, or actually, I know anybody that grows up in it, I don't think can be. You're not going to think about this, but for somebody who is maybe an adult and converts into being a Jehovah's Witness, there's a key part, if I'm remembering correctly, that to me just seems like it would be the big red flag, the thing that you would sort of be like, oh, well, there's nothing to this. This is ridiculous. And that is that Jesus came back in the 19-teens, right?
Yes. That, all of that garbage. So Jehovah's Witnesses have been around for a while. They've been around since like the late 1800s. They weren't under the name Jehovah's Witnesses, but the group was around. The original president, God, it wasn't Rutherford. It was, oh fuck, I can't remember the first president's name. Russell.
Lloyd.
Yeah, Lloyd, help me out on this. His last name was Russell, I think. I don't remember his first name. I'm sorry, Lloyd, I'm letting you down. I don't know my history. But
Mormons don't know their history either. No worries.
Yeah, that's true. He was like all about predicting the end of the world. The Jehovah's Witnesses have been predicting the end of the world, Armageddon, for years. One of their predictions was for 1914. And then I think one of them was for 1918. Then 1975. And then it was for the end of the millennia. And then they just switched to, it's going to be soon, okay? It's going to be soon. But basically, after they were making such a big deal out of 1914 as a year, that they basically had to say that something happened that year. Because obviously the end didn't come, but it was the beginning of World War I. So they're like, well, see, Jesus has returned invisibly in 1914. It's the end times because there's a world war now, and that's our proof. So they were predicting the end of the world, which didn't happen, so they covered their asses, basically.
I guess Jesus just came back, started a war, and then just said, well,
fuck it.
I'm good. And leave.
Yeah. It's been the end times for over 100 years now. And they were so excited in 2014. They're like, it marks 100 years since Jesus' return. And it's like, you're excited that it's been 100 years since you thought the end was going to come? And it hasn't come yet? You're proud of that fact? That it's been 100 fucking years?
Meanwhile, Jesus hadn't done shit since he's been here. Like, where the fuck is he? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I will say, though, that in 2014, we did get Charlie Sheen, Warlock, Blood, Tiger, and Winning. So, I mean.
Sure.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if Jehovah's Witnesses would use that as a sign.
Let's have faith.
So
let's have faith.
Every religion, I think, has other religions that they think are crazy. Who do Jehovah's Witnesses think are crazy? Huh?
Catholics.
Who?
They shit on Catholics as much as they can. They don't talk about other cults, because then you might draw the... They shit on Catholics at every opportunity. I don't know what it is. Crazy. Maybe it's just the witnesses that I know. I don't know. But maybe it's because Jehovah's Witnesses have a culture of poverty. So I guess that they see the rich church and they're like, look at that rich church. They're not following Jesus. They're rich.
Yeah.
We're all poor window washers. That makes us closer to Christ.
Yeah. Oh my God. I thought that you were going to say like Scientology and you say Catholic.
They don't want you to look at other cults and realize that maybe this is a cult. They don't want you to look at other cults. So they don't really talk much about Mormons and Scientology. I heard very little about other cults growing up. Like, I knew that they existed and I knew that there were parallels between Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, but I was just like, eh. But the one that I saw coming up in like literature and stuff, they would call it Christendom, like is false Christianity, which is any Christian who isn't a Jehovah's Witness really is Christendom. But they mostly meant Catholicism, to be honest. They mostly meant Catholicism.
Interesting. That's funny. Catholics I like it.
Catholics are crazy.
Yeah, I know.
What? That's true. They are.
Yes,
I believe it.
Yeah, they are. The hat, the smoke, the setting the cardinals up in the walling them up in the room until they choose a leader and filling their balls and the white smoke.
Hey, let me tell you something. Your religion is wrong if you don't have a fucked up hat. It's true. It's true story.
True.
Yeah.
It's true. You need a hat.
See, Jehovah's Witnesses don't have fucked up hats, do they? I don't think they have fucked up
Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't technically have hats, but women have to wear head coverings in specific circumstances.
What?
Doesn't happen often. Yeah. Like if, for example, you're going to your congregation's meeting for field service, which is what they call preaching. They're meeting for field service. You get there, and there are no men who are baptized there. It's all women or unbaptized men. Well, could be boys, or kids. Or maybe there is a baptized man there, but he's like 12 or something like that. So one of the women will lead the arrangements for this, but she'll do it while wearing a head covering. She'll put something on her head, a scarf or something, to show that she is acknowledging, like her place in God's arrangement for women or something like that. But it's specifically a sign of submission. Like, people in Islam will be like, oh, the hijab means so many things. But Jehovah's Witnesses are like, yeah, this is to show our submission to men. That's what it's for. We're going to be pretty upfront about it.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Casey,
I
wanted to qualify what I was saying when I said that the Catholics are crazy. In 800 and it was 816-ish. Maybe that's when he was born. Anyway, there was a pope named Formosus. Now, Formosus dug up his predecessor, the pope before him, put him on trial, had a guard in the Vatican move the dead man's mouth while they were trying him. They found him guilty. They cut off the 3 fingers that he uses to bless people with, cut his head off, threw his body in the river, and they don't know what they did with the fingers and the head. But that's how crazy Catholics are. They dug up the Pope because they were not done accusing him of shit.
I don't understand. I just don't understand why you have to criticize the rituals, Kyle. I mean, come on. It seems totally reasonable, right?
It's also the home to the guy that saw the rings of Saturn and exclaimed for I believe it was 75 years that the rings of Saturn were actually the foreskin of Jesus that had risen into the heavens, because it was just a blur around the planet. That's a true story. That is, I know I usually say things that are outlandish. That is a true story. They declared it was the risen foreskin of Jesus.
How does the rings of Saturn, even if it's blurry, look remotely like a foreskin? Like it's just like it's around something. Foreskin. There you go.
For whatever reason, Catholic priests have fingers on the brain a lot.
Well, so there actually, I think it's in church history, there have been, I think, 22 Jesus foreskins brought forward. I think it's 22.
There can be only one.
At least 21. At least 21 are just some random dude's foreskin. If not all 22, which is much more likely.
I want to end this. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that I asked about one thing, because this is probably the most controversial, and I always ask Telltale and Lloyd when they come on about this. Was the issue of the blood transfusions and like sort of medical issues? Was that something that either you saw going on, about? Like, what's your knowledge on that?
I never personally had to deal with this issue myself, which was really good. Because if I had dealt with that issue, it would have been some horrible thing, I've never had to deal with it personally. Fortunately, I've never, at least as far as I know, because it could have happened when I was young and nobody really told me anything. Because I felt like I went through most of my childhood with people just talking about things happening and me just being like, well, is someone going to stop and explain this to me? Or am I just supposed to catch on from context clues or something? But as far as I know, I've no one in my family or any close friends or anything like that had to deal with the blood issue. But it is very much an issue. It's pretty disgusting and disturbing. And I don't know if Lloyd or Owen have ever told you about that one Awake magazine that has a bunch of kids in it who died because they didn't get blood transfusions. But, you know, that's a thing. They have a bunch of smiling kids on the front and they're like, they lived for God or they sacrificed for God or something along those lines. And it's horribly disturbing.
As a person who can't have kids and wants them, that is so infuriating. I can't even begin to explain to you how mad that shit makes me. That and fucking faith healing, when people don't get proper medical care for their kids and their kids die and they're like, well, that's what God wanted. Fuck you. Somebody should take your kids. Like,
oh yeah, you'd love my mom. She was an anti-vaxxer and into alternative medicine on top of indoctrinating her children into a cult that believes that blood transfusions are a sin. So yeah, wow. I'm sure you and my mom get along great.
You know what though? Good for you for going against those sort of odds and coming out, you know, on top and like because you're an awesome person. I mean, I can tell that just because of the way that you carry yourself and your personality. And a lot of people, I think, in your position. Like number one, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to have, you know, your family, shun you and to be in a situation where you're in a new environment alone. And the fact that you came out on top and now you're kicking ass and kicking its ass, the thing that, you know, caused the root of all that is pretty sweet. So I'm glad to see that for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was actually just going to say, I saw just yesterday, actually, my mom posted on Facebook a picture of my whole family all together. And there was a spot right next to her where no one was sitting. And it was like everybody was paired off except my mom, who was sitting in the middle, and she didn't have anybody next to her. And I had this overwhelming feeling of, I'm supposed to be in that picture and I'm supposed to be right there. And it was very upsetting. But then I kind of, it sucks. But at the same time, my fiance reminded me of something very important. He said to me, no, you don't belong in that picture. You got out of that. And it's a good thing that you got out of that. I know you miss your family, but if you were in that picture, you'd still be in a cult. And I think that is, I think that's really something that's important to me, is like, I got out of something that made me miserable. For the last several years that I was religious, you know, I'm struggling with all of these feelings, and I just feel like and this is a very common thing with Jehovah's Witnesses, whether or not they're LGBT or whatever, but just feeling like they're never doing enough. Because Jehovah's Witnesses have this idea that basically, like, if you're not completely selling your soul to Watchtower 24/7, if you're not doing literally as much as you can until you are physically exhausted and can't do any more, then you're not doing enough. And I always felt like I wasn't enough. I always felt that way. I was so miserable for years. And now I'm like, I have goals now. I don't feel like I'm going to die in a year or two, or maybe tomorrow, who knows? I feel like I have a future now. And I think that is kind of what drives me, is just that I don't want anybody else to feel the way that I felt, or I want to get them out of it faster. That's kind of my motivation now.
That is both heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. Well, I'm glad that you found sort of this. Would it be appropriate to say neck of the woods, Casey? This area of the community where we can interact with you and
yeah,
this neck of the woods over here. I know there's a direct question in the in the super chats, and then the others I will read when we move to the next show, so that we can switch formats and have time to do that. But this question I think is a really good question, and it's from Philip Fenrir, and he says, yeah, what is the first thing that you did unguiltedly? He said that he watched all of the Harry Potter movies.
I did watch all the Harry Potter movies, but I felt like I was kind of robbed because they didn't have any nostalgic value to me, and I was like, they were okay. I feel like I would have liked these a lot more if I had seen them when I was like 8, but they were good. But honestly, the first thing that I did was the thing that I got disfellowshipped for, which was losing my virginity. And I remember being in the judicial meeting, which is basically where they trial you to see if you're repentant enough of your sin to not get disfellowshipped. And I kind of looked all of the elders in the eye, and I was like, okay, I did this thing. I'm going to give you all the nitty-gritty details about it since you're asking. But do I feel shame that I'm telling you all of this? Yes, it's very uncomfortable. But do I feel guilty? No. Am I going to do it again? Probably. So I kind of went into it like, basically, when I decided that I was leaving home, I was like, I'm just getting out of here. I didn't feel very much guilt. I didn't feel guilty about that at all. So I guess the first thing that I did that I didn't feel guilty about was have sex, and that was fun.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm really glad that you stood up for yourself. I think that's really important. And a lot of people are in situations where they can't, but I'm glad when you could that you did, and you stood up for yourself, and now you're making a life that you can be happy with. And I think that's what's really important. And I think it's also really admirable that you've started a YouTube channel and you do what you do to, help others in the same community.
I appreciate
more sex, less cults.
Hell yeah. Hell fucking yeah.
There's a new shirt.
Unless it's cult sex. That could be interesting.
That actually sounds hot. I don't know why, but okay, I'm just going to shut up now. All right. Well, I want to thank very much you for coming on and talking with us. This was fantastic. Like I said before we came on, we're going to get you back on here soon with Telltale and Lloyd. I don't know if you guys out there remember, but about a year ago, we had a sort of a all-together stream where we talked about issues that were going on, and I think it'd be cool to do that again and bring you on. And also, they actually debated a current Jehovah's Witness together on here.
They got a Jehovah's Witness to debate them?
Yeah, we worked on it for I mean, it was months, and before he finally agreed. But he did agree, and it was really good. So I enjoy having them on there, and we look forward to seeing you then. We'll take a deserved second and let everybody again know where they can find you, because I know they're going to want to. The live chat is blowing up about you right now, so tell them where they can go and find out more about ExCultBaby or ExCultBaby. God, ExCultBaby.
Wow, you're right. You really can't grasp the English language, huh?
I can't.
Dang.
I can't. I don't lie.
Well, okay, my username on Twitter is ExCultBaby. You can find me at ExCultBaby on Twitter. My YouTube channel is also ExCultBaby, so subscribe and all that good stuff. I have other social media that I barely ever use, but those are the ones that I'm mainly on. So that's the good stuff.
Perfect. And
Shannon
Shannon in the live chat put the MS fundraiser again. Remember, she is in the lead. We want to keep her that way. And if you can, go and check that out and donate. Casey, anything you want to leave us with? Any parting words of wisdom?
Don't forget to stand up and use your voice.
And
hell yeah.
And make grocery lists, not stupid lists.
Right, because if you go shopping and you're hungry, you're gonna mess up and buy way more stuff than you needed.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice. And we'll be right back in 10 minutes with Arn Ra. Good night.
That'll be
Bye,
awesome.
y'all.